And so I just pulled this up. Now, this is from you. These are your words. It's incredibly frustrating that people have intentionally and maliciously misconstrued a 16-second cut from a larger conversation to make it sound as though I don't support BLM protests or somehow approve of racist white people indiscriminately killing protesters when this is an issue I have ruthlessly and consistently been on about throughout the years. This is your quote. Those are people who are purposely misconstruing what you said and lying. Is that true? And you just got done saying that these are people who have some degree of influence in the discourse. So you would have to concede.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Genuinely glad you are here for this one because this video is something else. So what you are about to watch is a debate where a right side panelist sits across from Destiny, one of the most well-known online debaters in this space. And the topic is whether mainstream media deliberately shapes narratives or whether it is just perspective and opinion. Sounds straightforward, right? It is anything but. Because at a certain point in this conversation, the panelist pulls up Destiny's own words and uses them against him. And the moment it happens, the entire debate shifts in a way nobody sees coming. Trust me when I say you want to stay until the very end of this one. The build-up pays off in a way that is genuinely hard to predict. And if you leave early, you are going to miss the exact moment this whole thing flips. Before we get into it, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you are watching from right now. It always blows me away how far this community reaches, and I love seeing where you all are coming from. All right, let's get into it.
Okay.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Why was there riots there in the first place?
The rest of the conversation.
Destiny, hold on. Real quick. Kenosha, it's important. Real quick. Why was there riots there in the first place? Because the media misrepresented
that wasn't the media. That was social media. That was the issue, right?
That's media.
No, it was
the
a guy
media
posting a 15-second clip on TikTok. Purposely?
No.
You can show me evidence of that. Show me evidence that they intentionally lied.
The media purposely omitted that he had a knife. They purposely omitted that he was a threat to kids in the backseat of that car. They made it sound like the police just shot him because he was trying to get away.
Wait, was this in the initial report?
No, it wasn't. The initial reports was just a thing that blew up on fucking Twitter. That's why everybody was fucking protesting because nobody had any idea what the fuck happened.
Let me do this. Let me ask both sides.
Same thing with Michael Brown. The media.
I just want to summarize my last point. I'm just going to say that like the fact that you can't even conceive that a person in good faith could disagree that Rittenhouse didn't defend himself, that he was actually a murderer, is like you're partisanly gone. And I'm somebody that I supported Rittenhouse defense, but there are good arguments being made on both sides for why he did murder versus why it was self-defense. But you can't even engage with that idea, and then you're trying to accuse the media
we're
of
sitting
lying.
here engaging with it.
You're not. You're saying the only way somebody could believe that is they have emotional baggage.
Let me see if I could ask each side a question. Let me see if I could ask each side a question and rein this in, right? For the people on the right, if the media, like say CNN, say my boy Brian Stelter from my shirt here, if he accurately reported all of the facts of the Rittenhouse case and let the people hear all the facts and then said, I think he's a murderer, is that the media being corrupt, or is that just someone outlining the facts and having an opinion?
Are you asking me or?
I'm asking the people on the right.
Oh, I think somebody could have that opinion without them lying, or I mean, they might just genuinely feel that way. Like there are some people that, given all the facts, they rarely ever defend self-defense.
What I'm isolating here is like, is the problem that they have an opinion, or is the problem that they're omitting facts?
That's what I think the problem is. They have an opinion, they have a slant, but it's not lying. It's just people representing their opinions.
It's also that opinion is a part of media.
That's actually a problem. If you look at journalism in maybe the 40s and 50s, now there are exceptions. There's always outliers, right? Not everything, but there is general idea that there is a distinction between the opinion, the person, the analyst, the analytics, and the presentation of news. And the core of that idea is that the newsman is your eyes on the ground. Your eyes are not supposed to be doing the thinking. Your eyes and your ears should not have opinions. And in fact, if you're a journalist on location, or you're a news anchor that is just reporting the dry news, you should be as dry as possible, and your opinion should be as hidden as possible. And the language of the time, 70 years ago, that was generally the language. It was generally how they presented the news. And then there would be a separate segment where they would have a panel like this one, where people would be able to express their opinions. And if somebody is a journalist, would not be able to even appear ethically on that panel. they would not be that type of person. And yet now we have all of this merged. And in fact, if you go to a school of journalism, they will say, well, being unbiased is impossible, therefore we shouldn't even try. That's the new angle. And it's completely different from the past. So yes, I would say if the media was always the enemy, now it's more overtly so.
So let me ask the left this question real quick, right?
Does that mean we get to answer? Because
if more people had to answer, sure, go ahead.
I'm saying that because Destiny did it last time.
I'll ask the left this real quick, right? If we could separate the idea of their opinion versus the facts, I'll ask the left this. Two-part question. If they intentionally omitted facts of what went on with Rittenhouse, would that be considered unethical and a lie? And do you think there were certain outlets that intentionally didn't report things like that Rittenhouse was shot at first and that Rittenhouse ran to the police and things like that?
It depends on it. Like, it might be, here's what I'm saying, okay? You might be omitting a fact because you don't think it's important. You don't think it's relevant to the story. Now, some people might say that's bad faith, but like, I think there are legitimate disagreements. For instance, was it relevant that 2 weeks beforehand, I think it was 2 weeks beforehand, that Rittenhouse was like in a parking lot saying like, oh, I wish I could shoot the people going into Target or robbing a store or whatever, right? The judge thought that wasn't relevant, that part of his character was not relevant. A lot of people think that is relevant, right? But you can have a legitimate disagreement on that. So if I watch Fox News, I'm guessing they're probably not going to talk about that. If I watch CNN, they're probably going to talk about that a lot. I don't think either side is lying. I just think they're using a different process to come to what they think is an important fact to report about that story.
This is the part that shows you exactly how the media narrative machine works. Because the right side is asking a very simple question. Why did people riot in the first place? And Destiny's answer is basically, it just blew up on Twitter. Nobody knew what happened. But wait, that is the problem. That is the point they were making. You have to understand, when a story explodes before all the facts are out, and the media keeps running with that incomplete version even after the real facts surface, that is not an accident. That is a pattern. And the right side panel is calling that out directly. The panelists made it very clear. The media purposely left out that there was a knife involved, that there was a real threat present in that situation. They framed it as a completely one-sided story. And Destiny's response is basically, well, the media just has opinions. They just have a slant. Here is what people don't realize. There is a massive difference between having an opinion and choosing which facts to include. An opinion is what you express after you present the information. When you skip over key facts that would fundamentally change how someone feels about a story, that is not an opinion. That is a deliberate choice. And choices like that have real consequences for real people. This is the part that blows my mind. Destiny is a sharp guy. He debates for a living, but he kept falling back on this same argument that having a perspective is not the same as lying. And technically, sure, but nobody on that panel is saying journalists are writing fiction. They are saying the selection of facts is being used as a tool to shape what people believe. And those are two very different conversations.
It's funny you mention that because that's exactly what you'll hear on like far left media is like, oh, no one spoke about the time when he said he wanted to kill people 2 weeks earlier. Like that's actually something that people said on the left a lot. But I mean, I watched this from the UK and I remember even just like absorbing a lot of this from like AP or like The Guardian and shit. And like, I mean, I thought, and I can't remember if it was a CNN or an MSNBC report during the trial when they said that it looks like he's going to get let off. Like it looks like the prosecution's not having a good time here. So, I mean, I was able to come to the conclusion that he was innocent in that from like mostly just absorbing the same outlets I normally would. I didn't have to watch Fox News to get to that conclusion. And I think as far as people still calling him a murderer, isn't it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the people that Rittenhouse was like having a problem with now was people like Cenk Uygur and Whoopi Goldberg who were saying that. But that's also like there are sections of the media that are dedicated to opinion. Like those people are known for, they're not supposed to be reporting like factual. They're supposed to be like giving opinions, which is a legal right.
Well,
so
hang on.
You can have that side of the media as well.
Real quick, can I just interject this real quick? As I've been listening to this, is the back and forth. Destiny, I'd like to ask you a question. Going back to this, would you consider people who are online who are reporting to have some type of media influence? Would you think that people who are online who are discussing these various topics, this and that. They maybe reach large audiences, could have some significant influence on this type of thing.
Yeah, of course.
On narrative, of course, right. And so I just pulled this up. Now, this is from you. These are your words. It's incredibly frustrating that people have intentionally and maliciously misconstrued a 16-second cut from a larger conversation to make it sound as though I don't support BLM protests or somehow approve of racist white people indiscriminately killing protesters when this is an issue I have ruthlessly and consistently been on about throughout the years. This is your quote. Those are people who are purposely misconstruing what you said and lying. Is that true? And you just got done saying that these are people who have some degree of influence in the discourse. So you would have to concede that people are intentionally lying, at least about what you said, by your own words, right?
I don't know why you think I'm conceding or disagreeing with you at all. I'm just saying that most of the times when people are assuming that there's like some malicious thing happening, sometimes there can be a legitimate disagreement of facts.
And then it happens. This is the moment the entire debate had been building toward. The right side panelist goes quiet for a second and then pulls something up. And when he says, "This is from you, these are your words," you can feel the energy of the entire conversation shift completely. Because what Destiny said in his own statement was that people intentionally and maliciously twisted a clip of him to push a false narrative about what he believes. He used the word maliciously. He used it, not the people on the right, not some commentator. Destiny himself put that word on paper. And here is why that matters so much. The entire debate up to this point had been about whether influential voices lie on purpose or whether they simply have different opinions. Destiny kept pushing back. It is just perspective. It is just how they prioritize facts. It is not malicious. But then his own documented words walk right into the room. You have to understand, this is not a cheap gotcha moment. This is what real accountability in a debate looks like. When your own words directly contradict the position you have been defending for the last hour. That is not a small thing. That is the argument collapsing from the inside. The panelist did not yell. He did not insult Destiny. He simply read the statement back and asked one clean question. Is that true? And the answer, whether Destiny is ready to say it out loud or not, is yes. That is exactly true. And it validates everything the right side had been arguing the entire time.
Your exact words, it's incredibly frustrating.
Bro, you've got to be able to engage
and maliciously.
Bro, yes, that's the point. So for instance, I think that you can have a legitimate disagreement given all the facts. You can have a disagreement over the Rittenhouse thing. However, what was the name of was it Covenant High School or Coven High School? Who were the kids that Covington, right? I think that was malicious. That was a malicious cut. I don't think, given all the facts, a reasonable person would ever think those kids were acting poorly towards those people. That only happened because of that malicious cut. But I think that everybody thinks that the media does that all the time. But I think in general, what the media does all the time is they choose the facts that they think are important and they omit what they don't think is important. And there might be some bias involved in that. Sure, everybody's got their political leanings, but I don't think the majority of it are these malicious cuts.
You don't think they sensationalize?
Yeah, but
sensationalize and lying is not the same thing.
You did say that these people were malicious towards you. Those were your exact words were have intentionally and maliciously.
Yeah. Do you think I'm saying that? I literally just gave you an example of the mainstream media being malicious.
Yeah, you did. But what you said is that if all the facts were presented, you don't think a reasonable person would ever come to a different conclusion. That's what you just said.
Yeah, that's correct.
So if that's true, then Zen Shapiro was right. And when you told him just moments ago that it's insane to say that if a person had all the facts, they would always come to the correct conclusion, you're thwarted by your own words, Destin.
I'm not saying that in every single case they would. I just gave you an example where there are some cases where, given all the facts, people might still disagree. For instance, Rittenhouse. But in other cases, given all the facts, I think people probably wouldn't disagree, like the Covington High School kids.
Bro, there are still people to this day that think that he was like some, racist KKK member. Like that still
what
does
that
exist.
have to do with what I just said?
That insane people, retarded people can think that can come to a retarded conclusion even given all the facts, or some emotionally driven conclusion that is incorrect given all the facts.
Okay.
Okay.
You said that people can't do that with the Covington.
Yeah, well, he said that
Because
given
I
all
don't
the
think-
facts,
I don't think
a
they've given
reasonable
all the
person would never come up with that.
Because I don't think given all the
when
facts.
did he say that?
I don't think given all the facts for some cases. For the Covington
He
thing.
just said it, Dylan.
For some
He just said it.
things, I'm saying if there's been a bad reporting, like a malicious selecting of facts, then yeah, you might be able to come to totally different conclusions. I agree with that. But for the Covington kids thing, if you show me a person that thinks that those kids were evil and racist or whatever, I'm pretty sure if we watched all the footage together, they'd be like, okay, probably not. This is bad reporting. Whereas on the Rittenhouse stuff, even with all the facts, I think some people can still disagree that it was murder or self-defense.
So, I mean, well, which thing, this is so weird because you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. Which thing is true? Is it true that that people have maliciously gone after you and they have misconstrued what you have said in order to advance a narrative by lying intentionally, which you consider to be pushing of a media narrative? And you say that if given all the facts, they would never come through with that type of result. That's what makes it malicious. Same thing that you just claimed was.
Now this is where everything really breaks open, because Destiny tries to create a separation. Okay, yes, that specific case was malicious, meaning the Covington kids situation. But in general, the media is not doing that across the board. And the panelist comes right back. But you just said that a reasonable person, given all the facts, would never conclude those kids were acting badly. That was Destiny's exact position. Never. But earlier in that same conversation, Destiny told the right side it was insane to think that facts always lead people to the correct conclusion. He said people carry emotional baggage and will still disagree even when shown everything. So which is it? You cannot hold both positions at the same time. This is the part that genuinely blew my mind, because the contradiction is sitting right there in the open for everyone to see. The panelist even names it directly. You are speaking out of both sides of your mouth. And then he asks what might be the cleanest question of the entire debate. Is it true that people maliciously went after you to push a narrative? Yes or no? And here is something worth understanding that connects to a much bigger picture. This separation between news reporting and opinion commentary used to be considered one of the most important foundations of journalism. Figures like Walter Cronkite operated under a very strict standard. Your job as a news anchor was to present what happened, and your personal views had absolutely no place in that delivery. That wall protected the audience. Once that wall came down, opinion and fact became impossible to separate in the presentation. That is not a one-sided political complaint. That is a structural shift that changed how information reaches people entirely. Destiny is genuinely one of the sharpest debaters in this space. But in this specific exchange, he got caught. Not by a loud argument, not by someone screaming over him. He got caught by his own words. And honestly, that is the most powerful thing that happened in this entire segment. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.